ways of getting that message out has been town hall meetings.
Yeah.
And how did you think the one this week went?
It was interesting, definitely challenging. It didn't go differently than I expected it to go. I have had town halls for 18 years. You know, I mean, ever since I was in the State House, you know, when I started when I was 26 years old. So I've had town hall meetings go well, town hall meetings go not so well. You know, I was really thrilled that, and Tony, you saw, that the overwhelming majority of people that came to that town hall were supporters of me, supporters of reform, supporters of the president. I think it's unfortunate that that format of interaction between a member and their constituents is being taken over by bullies. You know, it is being dominated by people who can't get their message across, who have no message, who have nothing other than negativity and venom. I mean, there was nothing constructive about what the people that were opposed to reform had to offer. And I've had plenty of town hall meetings where not everyone in the room agrees with me. And I welcome that. I mean, I want people to stand up and tell me that they're upset with me, or they wish I didn't vote a certain way, or they wish I thought differently on a particular issue. That's happened in town hall meetings of mine for 18 years, but I've never had a situation where there was catcalling by opponents against people who were standing up in the room, who were there to talk about what they supported. I mean, one woman stood up. I felt so bad for this woman. One woman, I don't know if you were in the room at this point, but one woman stood up. She had forgotten her question earlier in the night. She stood up and started to make a statement. And I try to run these meetings very fairly. I could have just randomly called on people in the audience and asked them, you know, to stand up and ask a question. Had I done that, the overwhelming number of questions would have been from supporters, because it was about 80-20. But instead what I do, and I did this at the town hall meeting I had in November, where it was about 75-25, I have a box for if you are a supporter, if you have a question, a supportive question, a neutral question, or an opposition question. You put your name in the box, not the question, but your name in a box, and we draw one at a time. And we go until the end of the meeting. That way, everybody gets an equal opportunity to ask me a question. I don't know what your question is, and I know that I'm getting a balance of questions. When this one woman, and also what I do is, whether you're a supporter or an opponent, I really try to limit the outbursts. So when my supporters started to really applaud loudly on everything I said, and everything, you know, which was nice, but not helpful in terms of getting people the information that they need, I said, look, I appreciate the support, but if we're going to answer a lot of questions here, you know, if we can, you know, not applaud and keep your enthusiasm, you know, I appreciate it, but keep your enthusiasm dampened, that would be great. And I'm going to ask the same thing of the opponents so that we can get something done here. Well, the supporters listened, and they were respectful and stopped applauding. The opponents, when this one woman stood up the first time, she was standing up to make a statement, and I wasn't allowing statements. I only allowed questions, because, you know, statements are you know, I'm there to tell you what's going on. This is how the impact of the bill has. I can answer questions, clear up any misinformation, but, you know, speeches, I just never found speeches to be productive. So she stands up and she starts to tell me how much she supports reform, and I asked her to you know, if she had a question. She said that you know, she really just wanted to be supportive, so she sat down. Then later on, she stood up and said, I'm really sorry. She went to one of my staff and asked if she could have another opportunity, because she had a brain injury from having been hit in the head with a lead ball by a student when she was a special ed teacher, and she had brain damage, and she was on disability, and so had forgotten her question, and now she remembered it. So once she said that, I recognized the woman. I've met her before, and so when she stood up and she actually said that, so I said, of course you can have an opportunity to ask a question. So she stood back up. People actually were making comments that I let her ask her question, even though she was brain injured. And then when she stood up and said, I'm sorry, you know, I had a brain injury, she explained what happened, someone in the audience yelled out, good, when she said that she had had a brain injury. You know, another person in the courtyard screamed out that God gave me breast cancer because of my views. I mean, so that's just not the opposition that I'm used to. You know, come and be constructive. In fact, the first question out of the gate was from a guy who reminded me that he was at my last town hall, and he lives in Weston. Once he reminded me that he'd been what his question was, I remembered that he was at the last town hall, and he was concerned at the last town hall that we members of Congress weren't going to be held, that we weren't going to be including ourselves in the health insurance reform legislation. And I told him that I supported and was comfortable with including members of Congress. I thought it was going to be good insurance, and I was totally fine with that. And so he came back to this town hall and said, well, why didn't you do that? You didn't keep your word. You said you were going to support that, and you didn't. And see, one of the best things about a town hall is that you can correct people's misimpressions. We did include members of Congress in the health insurance reform legislation, and in 2014, when the exchanges are up and running, Congress will be included in the exchanges. So he said, well, Debbie, I really always appreciate, you always run a fair, he said, I don't agree with the healthcare reform legislation, but you always run a fair town hall, you give everybody an opportunity to ask a question, and thanks for the information. So he walked away satisfied. He was about the only opponent that did walk away satisfied, because everybody else there was there to be venomous.
Well, has that forum outlived its usefulness?
I think there are ways to set up a town hall so that you can make it useful. One of the ways that you can do that, and we've considered it the last 2 times when we've tried to talk about the format of my town hall, should we just screen for constituents? Because now with the internet you can actually see, you can check IDs and you can see whether someone actually lives in the 20th district, and you can say this town hall is limited to at least until until all the constituents that are here that want to come in. You can do it that way. I've tried not to do it that way in the past, just because I really feel like I represent the broader South Florida region in general too, and I've sort of been a come one come all kind of person. But that was before you had bullies who were rude and obnoxious. Mostly I'm concerned for the well-being and access to information of my constituents. I mean, if you're a normal person who got my mailer and said, oh God, great, Debbie's having a town hall, I'm going to go down to Fort Lauderdale City Hall, and you drive down there, if you got out of your car on Monday night and saw what was going on, and you didn't really have any idea that what you were walking into, you would have gotten in your car and gone home.
Why do you think the venom level's gotten that high?
I think for a variety of reasons. I think that, in general, the Republicans and folks on the extreme right-wing fringe are so focused on having lost control of the government. They're focused on power. They are bullies.